American gangsters, 'cause we speak bold, ain't tripping on the haters. It could take freedom from a cold dead hands. We're locked and loaded for the last dance. 'Cause we're the new American gangsters, ready to die for this man.
Well,
Hey,
hello.
how you doing?
How are you, Brian?
I'm doing pretty darn good. Yourself?
Doing good. It's a
Yeah. You have a good
beautiful
weekend?
Monday. I did. How
Yeah.
about yourself?
Well, it wasn't bad. There was one hell of a storm we got,
It
right?
was.
Was that over the weekend?
It was.
Yeah. Yeah, it was crazy.
A lot of
Crazy.
damage.
Yeah. A lot of beautiful lightning, though.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
You took some pictures of that lightning. It was
I
pretty
did.
impressive.
I did. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was scary up there on top of that hill with bald, nothing around, lightning flying.
So beautiful, though,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So what are we talking about today?
Well, all kinds of things.
Yeah.
What do you want to tell the listeners about what's going on in Mexico right now?
Yeah, Mexico. Mexico is an interesting case study because Mexico is really feeling what the United States has felt for a very long time, right?
Mhm.
And amongst all the world's countries, right? You got some rich countries, and you got some poor countries, and some middle rich countries, middle income countries, we'll call them, right? And so you have what are called push and pull factors. You have bad economic conditions in one country, good economic conditions in another. Bad economic conditions push people out, and good economic conditions pull people in. Well, it's a lot harder to get into the United States of America now. Actually, I was just down at the border and this past weekend and this past week, and military down in Yuma, right? And no illegal crossings. Border is, A1 secure. And so where are the Chinese going? There's been a huge influx of Chinese immigration into Mexico, so much so that they are displacing all of the Mexican store owners, shop owners, workers in central Mexico City. And it's really causing quite a bit of conflict as Mexicans are now starting to feel what Americans have felt for a long time with jobs going to illegal immigrants who, the Chinese government, they're also pushing out manufacturing because they bring in all these synthetic textiles at 14 to 15% below their actual production cost, just so they can take over the local market, right? And so it's a form of cheating, right? You're
Mhm.
importing your goods below cost because the government's subsidizing them, and then you need the subsidy because you're selling below production cost, and that's how they basically take over markets. And China's very good at that. China's doing that very actively in Mexico and actually throughout Latin America, and it has
Well,
been for quite some time.
I think we talked about this, what was it, maybe 6 weeks ago
Yeah,
too,
yeah,
where they were protesting at that point just because they were feeling it in the housing market
right,
was really
yeah,
a big deal, right? And they
right,
were attributing that to a lot of the Americans
uh-huh,
that have moved into Mexico
right,
and purchased land. And
yep,
so it's driving up home ownership
right,
costs and cost of living in general. And now
hmm
we've got this added pressure
from
of
China,
taking over the industries by
right,
China,
right.
right?
And so, if you're a Mexican national now, you're competing with the Chinese for work. You're competing with the Chinese to sell your goods and services. If you can't do that, there's even more pressure on housing prices and Mexican ability to actually afford home ownership or whatever you want to call it, to buy land. And so, Mexico's got a quandary that I don't think its socialist controlled cartel president is capable of resolving. So,
Right. Well, it's interesting. It's like you said, they're feeling the weight of what we as
right,
American citizens have felt
right,
for a long time
yeah,
in this country, and
hmm
they're really starting to see it. And
right,
it's a shame because uh, the Mexican people themselves,
hmm
they don't deserve that kind of. I mean, we need to
no,
make Mexico great again too, right?
yeah,
I mean, it's a
yeah.
beautiful country.
Oh, you ever been to Mexico City?
I have not. I haven't been past border towns.
I mean, central Mexico City is absolutely beautiful. It takes you back, all the way to the ancient Aztecs because, the conquistadors, what they did was when they took over the Aztecs, they basically tore down their pyramids and used the stone to build all of the cathedral, the government buildings, things of that nature. But you could still see remnants of the old pyramids
Wow.
in the old Zocalo, is what it's called, the town square. Right? You've got a church on one side, you've got commerce on the other, you got government on one side, and courts on the other. Churches, so you've got the church, you've got the state, you've got the judiciary, and you've got commerce all there on one big square, one plaza, and so as you have the Chinese start to take this very, very highly touristic area over and push out Mexicans, you're going to
Small
cause
business owners are going to shut
right,
down, right? There
yeah,
will be no more business
right,
commerce.
and so a lot of Mexicans are becoming kind of like you saw in the United States, right? The Chinese flood the U.S. market with all these lower priced, lower quality Chinese goods as a way to push out U.S. manufacturers so that then they can dominate the market. So you had something you wanted to add, Steve?
Yeah, I just think it's interesting. I was looking, it was Shelby, what, like maybe a couple weeks ago, we were looking online and some news articles and live footage coming out of Mexico City, where the the people were taking to the streets marching, and they were holding signs saying, "Speak Spanish or go home." They were saying, no more illegal immigrants are
Right.
not
Stop
welcome.
taking our
Stop
jobs.
Yeah.
taking our
Right.
jobs.
hmm
All these different things that if anyone in America were to hold a sign like that, then they would be considered racist and fascist and be attacked for it.
hmm
But the Mexican people are they're feeling it, and they're not wrong, right? They they have a right to be upset about what's
Well,
happening
Yeah.
there.
absolutely. And, it's one of those things where they're starting to recognize the importance of nationalism. I mean,
Right.
people want to make nationalism a dirty word, right?
Right.
But the reality is putting your country or asking your government to put your
hmm
country first, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
No.
That's why we pay taxes and that's
Right.
why we do all these things so that our government can put our interests
Yeah.
first, right?
Yeah.
And I think Mexico is finally starting to rise up with more of a nationalistic
hmm
kind of philosophy. And they're like, wait, we want to take care of our people.
Right. Because I mean, what's going to happen to Mexican culture when Americans go visit, LDF, Mexico City? LDF is the federal district, right? And so that's kind of like Washington D.C., right? It's the nation's capital.
Yeah.
Where's Mexican culture? I mean, you can see it in the architecture, you can see it in the old buildings, you can see it in the remnants of the pyramids. You can go to the Pyramid of the Sun, but if everywhere you're going, you're no longer buying hand carved obsidian from the traditional Mexican craftsman, you're buying a bunch of Chinese, made in China,
Right.
real cheap crappy goods. What happens to Mexican culture, right?
Well, we saw that with the Native Americans
Right.
too,
Mhm.
right? It's really hard. There's certain areas you can go deep into the tribal land, but Steve being half Navajo, we've spent a lot of time, and our organization supports a
Right.
movement in the Navajo Nation. And I remember growing up as a kid, all of the trading posts just
Right.
lining the roads, especially when you would go up
Mhm.
through Tuba City and places like
Mhm.
that. And it was beautiful, handcrafted native jewelry.
Right.
And now more and more you see at a lot of these trading posts,
Uh-huh.
Chinese made trinket.
Right.
And fewer of the natives actually know the trade.
Right.
And those that do know the trade and the craft, it's harder to get the same kind of asking prices
Right.
when people can buy these Chinese cheap replicas
I agree.
off the res.
And
So,
that is a damn shame because, the Navajo, the Apache, the craftsmen in those tribal communities, they make some beautiful, beautiful works of art.
yes.
I mean, absolutely phenomenal. And so, to lose that, to be pushed out by these lower priced trinkets that are, made by machines and, with some other country coming and trying to push them out. Almost, a lot of people would criticize us right now for having this conversation because, the white Europeans came and pushed the natives out. But to that extent, I didn't have anything to do with it because I wasn't around. But what we have now is we have the Navajo community where I spend a great deal of time up on Navajo reservation land. You've got some phenomenal craftsmen, phenomenal,
Yes, absolutely.
right? And if you go, everybody should go into Gallup, New Mexico. Gallup
Mhm.
looks like God. It's not a beautiful city,
No.
right?
And be careful
But
what you eat there.
right. But if you go to Gallup and you go downtown to Main Street, it's
Mhm.
an old style Main Street, and the
Yeah.
buildings haven't been redone in a very long period of time, at least most of them. But
Right.
there are a lot of native stores up there. They've even actually opened a very large native sort of. It's supposed to be a museum.
Mhm.
It displays, native photographic art, different forms of native art, native jewelry, things of that nature, and you can see a lot of beautiful, actual, real native craftsmanship in downtown Gallup.
Well,
Right.
then that's one of the things that I honestly loved about traveling to Alaska
Hmm.
is going when if you kind of leave the coastal area and you go
Right.
into more where the tribes exist, the beautiful artwork and the
Yeah.
craftsmanship, the
Yeah.
steel craftsmanship, the
Hmm.
jewelry, the all the cultural stuff,
Right.
and I think it's important to recognize the importance of
Right.
allowing that to thrive and
Right.
not letting these
Hmm.
these foreign corporations kind of
Right.
push that out. And
Right.
I think we can make a big influence on
Yeah.
that by simply refusing to buy these
Right.
trinkets, right? And
Uh-huh.
investing in actual
Right.
craftsmanship.
Yeah.
So,
And I was just down in Mexico, and one thing I'd really see the hate leave would be the Mexican street taco vendor.
oh
Right.
yeah.
There's one guy I go down to every time I'm down there, and I took a friend down there this past week, and they just make the best street tacos, and they have the different bowls of the different salsa with the pico de gallo. You can get the greens, different types of reds. You can get cucumbers, and phenomenal, phenomenal tacos. Some of the best I've ever had.
Well, Steve and I live in the
Yeah.
West Valley, so we're very blessed
Right.
in that we have those street taco vendors very
Yeah.
close to our house.
Yeah.
And a lot of them have
Uh-huh.
that same influence and it's
Right.
great. It's great.
Yeah.
Those
Well,
salsas are amazing.
yeah. I love them. And Finn passed a while back, and he absolutely loved street tacos. If I went to get street tacos, I always had to take him when we were in Mexico, and I'd have to get 2 orders, and so he would get his street tacos, I'd get mine. I still haven't gotten Charlie's street tacos yet, but he loves steak, and I know he would just absolutely love street tacos. So gonna have to do that one of these.
I
Great to take him
found
to
some
Mexico while he's a
pictures.
puppy. Was that?
I don't know if you guys want to see, but I found some of the pictures of the protesters in Mexico that wanted foreigners to leave.
Yeah.
Among these foreigners, and I forgot this part of the story, is that there are wealthy Americans that are going into Mexico,
Yeah.
buying up businesses
Right.
and opening up businesses.
Yeah.
And so that's some of the frustration that you're seeing in
Right.
Mexico.
Mhm.
And if you'd want, I can show you a few pictures of
Yeah.
some of the
Yeah.
things that have been captured.
Go ahead and throw some up. I think that'd be great. Oh, not that.
So hold on a second.
That's later in the
Oh,
show.
James Comey. How you
Yeah.
doing, James?
Oh, it's not
Well,
showing
anyway, I mean, while
this.
we're waiting, I mean, you don't have to be a wealthy American to go down to Mexico and have a good life.
Right.
You could, instead of Mexico, you could pick El Salvador and have an even better life. I mean, it all really depends on the relative value of your retirement savings and what you have
Right.
versus the cost of living in the nation you choose to go to. You know, a lot of people go to they go to Panama, they go to Costa Rica. Ugh. I mean, it's virtually dollar for dollar if you go to one of those countries. If you go to El Salvador, a dollar goes a very, very long way, and it's just as beautiful. And with the new president there, it's even infinitely more safe. So, yeah.
Interesting.
But
Give me a minute and I'll get those pictures for you.
yeah,
Nope.
all right. So
Well, we could flash back to it,
we
but
can flash back. Yeah.
I think that I mean, Steve had it up just a second ago, but another big thing happened in the news
Yeah.
that we're going to talk about today is the James Comey indictment, right?
Right, you know, and a lot of people in MAGA, you know, and this is sort of, you know, very frustrating. They're saying we want people in handcuffs, right? You can't just go throw people in handcuffs, right?
Right.
What do you have to do? You have to investigate. You have to gather evidence,
Yeah.
right? You have to prepare a case.
And you have to provide due process.
Due process, because if you just go put people in handcuffs and you don't have a case, a court will really have no choice but to just kick them back out onto the streets. And then what do people say? People say, "Oh, the court's just, you know, anti-MAGA, kicking all these criminals back out onto the street." But if you don't prepare your case, you know, you have Steve, what amendment is it that guarantees a right to a speedy trial? Do you remember?
Seventh? Is it
The Seventh Amendment?
It talks about right to a jury, right to impartial magistrate. I believe it's the Seventh Amendment.
Yeah, I that's funny. Like all of these people, all of these J6ers, which we'll also talk, I guess, a little bit about tonight, maybe. All of these J6ers were, of course,
Sixth.
denied a right to a speedy trial.
It was
Sixth
the
Amendment.
Sixth
The Sixth
Amendment.
Amendment.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Steve. Yeah, it was Sixth Amendment. And then the Seventh Amendment talks about what that
Right.
process looks like.
Right.
So,
And so when the government, you know, basically what that means is when the government arrests you, unless you're a J6er, of course, then boom, you know, a clock starts.
right.
You as a defendant have a right for your case to be presented so that you're not just hanging under the onus of indictment or whatever forever for the rest of your life, right? Kind of like the J6ers were. A lot of them were in prison for years
Right.
without a trial, right?
And their
and
rights were violated.
Their
And I
rights
think,
were violated. The,
you know,
the
we
government
recognize that.
wouldn't give up relevant documents and things of that nature. You got the photos?
Yeah, I got those here. You want
Yeah,
me
go ahead
to
and put
bring
them
some
up.
up?
Yeah, that's funny. Pay taxes, speak Spanish, use pesos. How many times have we seen similar signs in America saying pay taxes, speak English, and we don't take pesos?
Right.
So it's
Right.
funny, right?
You
The
know,
irony.
Yeah, and all of these signs are in English,
Yeah.
right? And so, you know, I've gone to a lot of stores in Mexico, a lot of taco shops in Mexico, mainly taco shops, but most of the places, I'll say a lot of the places you go to, especially in the border communities, they don't want pesos. They want the U.S. dollar because the U.S. dollar, you know, has far more value than the peso ever will.
Right.
And so, that's that. Well, there we go. Kill a gringo, right? That must be
That's their version of Antifa.
I was just going to say that. Mexico's version of Antifa, right?
Yeah.
And so it looks like it looks like they're in Portland writing on a federal building.
Yeah.
Did you
it's
hear about
interesting.
the moron who bombed Ice Cube's bus?
Yeah. What was that about?
What?
Well, yeah. Yeah, so we have all of this terrorism ramping up, right? We have the shooting up by the sniper of the Fort Worth ICE
ICE
detention
facility,
facility.
right.
What a moron, right?
He thought
he's
he was bombing ICE and he bombed
yeah.
Ice Cube.
And so he thought Ice Cube's bus was an actual ICE bus. So he firebombed it.
Unbelievable.
And so Ice Cube's a big rapper for those of you that don't know.
Yeah.
He was stuck, I guess, in Portland because some moron firebombed his bus, thinking it looked like an ice bus.
Well, look, I mean, we've got to accept the fact that people that are capable of doing these crazy things are not necessarily the high IQ of our society. Right?
Yeah.
It's just like when they graffitied Elon Musk's Tesla in Scottsdale and they misspelled words on the graffiti. I mean, these are not people of high intellect.
Right.
People of high intellect, you would hope, would not be as apt to firebomb or violate people's personal property.
But it's not only that, right? It's like the guy who opened fire on the Fort Worth ICE facility, right? He was targeting ICE. Who did he kill?
Not an ICE agent.
He killed immigrants.
Right.
And shot immigrants. He didn't kill ICE agents. If you bomb an ICE bus, you might get a couple. You might get a couple
get a
agents.
bus driver and a guard.
Yeah.
And that's probably at most.
But then you get a whole bunch of what?
Right. The very people you're claiming to want to
help.
protect.
Right. And so, these people are just plain stupid. Steve?
Yeah, I can't help but just recognize the glaring truth that the left for decades has been preaching that the right is violence and that they are hateful and evil and mean. But for the life of me, I'm having a hard time remembering any actual political violence that has been committed by the right.
Right.
But I can think of dozens of examples of lefties committing political violence.
Yeah. Unless you believe people like Stephen Richer and Adrian Fontes, then we're all just a bunch of right-wing extremists.
Right. But they're still safe at home and alive, while people in the conservative movement have given their lives, like Charlie Kirk, right?
But
So
the point I was making is it's the rhetoric from the elected officials and the leaders on the left. Their rhetoric makes it possible for people to have these ideas that carrying out violence for political means, which is terrorism, is a good thing to do. That's somehow a good idea.
Right.
well, it's just like we were talking last night. Somebody put out a post, and full disclosure, I know who this person is, but they put out a post on social media saying, "Mr. President, can you please just be nicer? Don't call people crazy, because if you want all of this to stop, you have to stop." And people need to recognize, like, words are not why these people want to kill us.
Right.
They want to kill us because of what we stand for.
Right.
That's like saying that you can just negotiate with Satan and say, "Hey, devil, I know you want me dead, but if I'm nice to you, do you think you'd leave me alone?" Like, it doesn't work that way. This is an extremist ideology. And it's not about what we call them, don't call them, whether we're nice, whether we're not nice. And that's the point people need to start recognizing, that it's not the words of the
Mhm.
right that are causing these lash outs. It is everything we stand for.
Right. Well, and people also need to understand that we don't negotiate with terrorists,
Absolutely.
right? Because that's what terrorists want, right? They threaten violence, they engage in acts of violence because they want their way,
Right.
right? And what do? I've got Lincoln here, little puppy, and he can be a little monster sometimes when he wants his way. But if I give him his way, he's always going to be a monster. And that's what we're looking at is we're looking at this entire culture, this entire left wing group that's been brought up to believe that if they don't get their way, they can throw a temper tantrum and they can do anything they want
Right.
to achieve their goals. Kind of like James Comey. You want to talk about Comey for a bit?
Well, yeah, and I want to share a little bit of a personal story. I'm
Yeah.
very much indebted to James
Uh-huh.
Comey, and let me tell you why. Because it was the final straw for me, Brian, was listening to James Comey back in 2015, 2016 talk about his investigation into the
Right.
Hillary Clinton servers.
Right.
That was
sure.
the moment that I really mobilized and got off the couch,
Right.
and I haven't stopped since. So,
Yeah.
so the world has James Comey to thank for my
Yeah.
activism
There you go.
because that man
Yeah.
is so corrupt, and I was
Mhm.
determined that one day we were going to have a fair and equal justice system
Right.
for all, right? And there would
reckoning.
not be two tiers of justice anymore. And are we starting to potentially see that now, Brian?
I think we're starting to see that. I mean, with Hillary Clinton, it's pretty clear that the elite got more treatment, better treatment from the left leaning national security state, which includes the FBI, than anybody else, right?
Mhm.
The mere fact that Hillary Clinton ran servers in her basement and was communicating, doing her work, was a violation of the law.
Right.
She should have been charged for doing that. You know why she wasn't charged for doing that?
I mean, I can because she was Hillary Clinton, right? I
Nope.
mean,
Because before Hillary Clinton was running those illegal servers in her room, George Bush, he was using the RNC's email servers to communicate business emails, and the RNC deleted everything. That was illegal,
right.
for him to engage in that conduct. And so, I believe the impetus for not charging Hillary was that, well, if they can do it, but we have to draw the line somewhere. We have to begin enforcing the law somewhere,
Right.
right? Or else, just like the Bush, Clinton, violations of the law. You can't say, oh, one is justified because the other did it. People continue to do that because nobody gets prosecuted for violating the law.
Well, I mean, when you think about it, though, Brian, I mean, the Bush Clinton, are we really looking at two different sides? Um, they're both kind of the uniparty institutionalists, so they kind of have each other's back, right? This isn't Republicans saying it's okay
think-
for a Dem and Dem it's okay for a Republican.
I think he's got something to say.
Oh.
You got something to say, Lincoln? Huh? Well, anyway, yeah, you're right. And I think about this a lot because Lincoln and I walk when we're in town. We walk quite a bit, and we've been doing a lot of walking in Mesa.
Uh-huh.
Some pretty bad areas late at night. Might be 12, might be 1. And we'll be walking down the sidewalk, and we have all of these electric scooters that you can't hear that come up behind you on the sidewalk, 20, 25 miles an hour. And,
Right.
and they expect you to jump out of the way into the middle of the road, into traffic. And it's like the police don't enforce the laws. You're not supposed to operate a motorized vehicle on the sidewalk,
Right.
It's a pedestrian walkway, especially when there are bicycle paths that these motorized vehicles could be driving in. But the police don't enforce those laws, right?
No.
What's the point of having law when law enforcement doesn't enforce the law?
Right.
And so when we have these little laws that are not they're a nuisance, we can't enforce them, then the next law becomes the little law, and ultimately we result in a society where no law is enforced. Steve?
Yeah, we have a viewer and a good friend of the show, Tristan Manos, sent me something interesting. It follows along with what you're saying right now, but also goes back to what we were talking about on the Navajo reservation, how there's cheap knockoffs showing up, right? So he sent me Title 18, Section 1159 of the U.S. Code makes it a federal crime to misrepresent goods as Indian produced when they are not. The statute is officially titled Misrepresentation of Indian Produced Goods and Products. Title 18, Crimes and Criminal Procedure. This was from 1948. I just thought you'd be interested to know that.
Well,
and yet that is another thing that is probably not enforced, but it's a law on the books.
Right.
well, it's
Thank you,
and it's
Tristan.
not. It's not enforced. You're exactly right, and so it does go back to, if the laws as they exist, many of the laws, they're good laws.
Yeah.
We just don't enforce them.
Right.
And that's what we've suffered for years. And that's, if we go back to elections, I tell people all
Right.
the time, there's very little election law
Mm-hmm.
that we really need.
Right.
We just need to enforce the law on the books, stop
Right.
misinterpreting it, stop coloring between the lines,
Right.
right? The law is the law. And if we follow it, things are pretty good.
Yeah.
But we're not following the law. And it's
Right.
law and order that's the destruction of a lot of these things.
Right. And Comey may have violated the law, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Comey's alleged, he was indicted, and so now the government, that he's been indicted by a grand jury, in a pretty blue neck of the woods, right?
Right.
I mean, that's pretty significant.
And now, what does the indictment say, Brian, as far as what are the counts? There's two
Well,
counts,
let's-
right?
Let's pull it up, Steve.
We pull up number one.
Okay, so you're going to want one of the PDFs here.
Yeah. PDF one. That's the
okay.
actual official September 25th indictment of James Comey.
Is this what you're looking for?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, basically, if you scroll down to count one, it's a violation of 18 USC Section 1001A2, which basically says James Comey lied to Congress, while he was given testimony under oath.
Right.
Right. And he's alleged to have lied or lied directly to Congress and or authorized people to leak information, which he then lied to Congress about.
Right.
And
right.
so,
Both Congress and Senate.
Yeah.
Because he originally had lied to Congress, and then in a Senate hearing, he revalidated the original lie. Right.
yeah, so he lies in the House, and then he revalidates the lie in the Senate.
Right.
And so,
And then count two.
yeah,
Let's go down to count two, Steve. Keep scrolling. Oh, there we go.
and that's a violation of Section 18
Yeah.
Statute 18 USC Section 1505, which is obstruction of a congressional proceeding, right? And so when Congress is investigating, like legislative branches, right? That's one of the reasons, going back to the audit, right? They challenged the Senate, the Arizona Senate's ability to conduct the audit.
Right.
But legislative bodies have the power to investigate. That's one of their primary functions, is to serve as an investigative body. Because how else, Lincoln, what are you doing down there? How else do you, as a legislator, learn?
Right.
So that you can modify laws to make them better, so that you can pass new laws to rectify problems. The way you do that is you conduct legislative hearings where you're investigating specific issues. And so when they were conducting investigations in Congress, both the House and Senate have these hearings, and James Comey, of course, is being accused of lying in those committee hearings and lying to the people in the committee hearings is obstruction because it obstructs Congress's ability to actually do its job, which is to investigate so that it can pass legislation to either rectify problems or, rectify problems.
Right. Right.
So, obstruction and lying to Congress. And so, I think that what we wanted to overall talk about today is how does this sort of relate to the entire Russia hoax
Right.
that was then pushed down our throat.
How does it all tie in?
Right? How does it all tie
Yeah.
in?
Well, I think let's start off. Let's listen to Comey's testimony. Can we skip to 3, Steve? Go ahead and put up 3, and let's listen to Comey. Now, this is before the Senate. This was what created the final indictment. This is Senator Ted Cruz questioning Comey to reaffirm what he said before Congress is actually factual, right? And so that's what this is. If you can go ahead and play that, Steve.
So he wants him
Let's
to
shift to another
reaffirm his
topic.
House testimony.
On May 3rd, 2017, in this committee, Chairman Grassley asked you point blank, quote, have you ever been an anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation? You responded under oath, quote, never. He then asked you, quote, have you ever authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports about the Trump investigation or the Clinton administration? You responded again under oath, no. Now, as you know, Mr. McCabe, who works for you, has publicly and repeatedly stated that he leaked information to the Wall Street Journal and that you were directly aware of it and that you directly authorized it. Now, what Mr. McCabe is saying and what you testified to this committee cannot both be true. One or the other is false. Who's telling the truth?
I can only speak to my testimony. I stand by what the testimony you summarized that I gave in May of 2017.
So your testimony is you've never authorized anyone to leak. And Mr. McCabe, if he says contrary, is not telling the truth. Is that correct?
Again, I'm not going to characterize Andy's testimony, but mine is the same today.
Quite interesting,
Yeah.
right?
So this is where it came down to, right? Is McCabe admitted that Comey authorized it.
Right.
And so then they called him back and they said, okay, we're going to give you a chance. This was your statement. Do you stand by this?
Right.
Because either you're lying or McCabe is lying.
Right.
Right. And, Senator Cruz did an interview and it appears that he believes, which makes sense to me, that they must have evidence proving that it's Comey that's lying, and that's why the indictment dropped on him.
Right.
But there's other people that should be indicted, right?
Oh, there's others that will be, but let's talk about this for a bit because it's interesting. Kind of like, the prisoner's dilemma, right? They got McCabe, and McCabe lied at first, didn't he? But then he came
did.
back, recanted, and changed his testimony.
My guess is they found evidence he was the leak,
Right.
and gave him a chance to back up
Right.
what he had originally said. Because originally, him and Comey were lockstep.
Right.
We didn't authorize it. We were unaware of it.
Yeah.
We didn't leak anything.
Right.
That was their story.
Lockstep, one story. We all have to have one story. We're going to talk more about that in a bit, but
Yeah.
they have these stories that they put together, and you're right. They have to have evidence because if this goes to trial based on McCabe's testimony alone, the recantation of his original testimony, what Comey is going to do is say, look, they offered McCabe a deal. They're going to let him walk if he testifies against me. I didn't authorize the leaks. He's a liar.
Right. I'm a fall guy. Comey's
Right.
going to claim he's the fall guy.
And he's got a good argument because he can point to McCabe and say McCabe testified one way and then he changed his testimony. So he's demonstrably a liar. at
Right.
one point, point A or point B, Comey's going to say he's a liar at point B because he doesn't want to lose his pension. He doesn't want to lose his reputation. And so, you have this battle brewing. So I'm guessing you're 100% correct that they have something additional that supports the fact that James Comey was
aware.
lying
Yep.
in his congressional testimony. So,
Yep.
yeah, so
I
we'll see.
believe so. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, Ted Cruz thinks so too. Steve, I want to skip 4. I think it's more fitting after 5. If we can play 5. This is what Ted Cruz said in his show when asked the question, what's going to happen to Comey?
Mhm.
Right? Do you think Comey's going to be guilty? What do you think will happen? Go ahead and
This indictment is for deliberately and knowingly lying under oath to the United States Senate, which is a clear and unmistakable felony. And I think Comey, I think the odds are good that Comey will be convicted. And I think if he's convicted, I think he's going to serve jail time.
Yeah. And see, I'm not sure that I really agree with him, right? If you look at if you look at the law, right?
Mm-hmm.
In a criminal trial where they're going to deny you, where they're going to deprive you life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, what do they have to get? Unanimous verdict, right?
Right.
They have to get every juror to agree, right?
Correct.
If you look at the jurisdiction where this trial is going to take place, Virginia, very heavily blue area, that means they're going to have to find, perfectly 100% objective jurors who are willing to convict James Comey.
Well,
Right.
but again, it goes back to the evidence, right? Because even a biased juror with the right evidence, if they have the evidence,
If you have, right, the woman was hospitalized and put in ICU. She was pregnant. She was doing this new Tylenol challenge to fly the bird at Donald Trump and Kennedy, right?
Mhm.
These people, these pregnant women are literally guzzling Tylenol in videos,
Right.
on Snapchat and stuff.
as a protest against
Because-
RFK.
Right, because RFK and Trump say don't take Tylenol when you're pregnant. Even Tylenol says we don't recommend pregnant women taking our products
Right.
when they're pregnant. Right.
So again, we're dealing with an irrational species of human.
Right. And so
Yeah.
so the significant challenge for, when they do voir dire in the with a jury pool, and voir
Right.
dire is you're questioning jurors, to find out, what their temperaments are, because you don't want people like that woman who wound up in ICU for guzzling Tylenol while she was pregnant on your jury, because she is so biased. She's willing to risk harm to herself and her child because she's just so full of hate.
Right.
And so that's the challenge during voir dire, is weeding those people out. And so that's going to be a big challenge. So I'm
It'll
not sure
be
I agree
interesting.
with. Yeah, Steve.
It'll definitely be interesting.
Yeah, what you're saying, Brian, is absolutely true. Some of these people are just so deranged that Trump and RFK could say, buy this and do this, and it'll cure your cancer. And the second they say it,
Right.
the crazy lefties will go out and buy all of it off the shelves and pull it out into the streets and destroy it so that no one can be cured just because Trump and JF and RFK
Yeah.
were the ones who said it.
That's right.
Like
Yeah.
literally they're that nuts. And there it is more nuanced. I agree with Brian, because it's not just that the area in Virginia is probably majority blue. It's also that Virginia is highly intelligence community. And this guy is partially a part of the intelligence community. Now, there's white hats and there's black hats and gray hats, that people that play both sides, and there's good guys and bad guys. But a lot of the times, the intelligence community takes care of themselves. They
They'll
don't
protect
want
their own.
the jig to be up,
Right.
and so that's a big part of this. A lot of government contractors and employees live in Virginia. So
Yep. And a lot of those people that work for the federal government bureaucracy are very, very, and that's why Trump has a task, and that's why his task during his first administration when he was elected in 2016, it was just like complete stonewalling by the federal government bureaucracy. I mean, we've got all that video of all those
Right.
federal government bureaucrats talking, and we've used some of it where they
Yeah,
talk
Steve
about.
wants us to pull that back out. So
Yeah,
I think we need to
we need to pull that
revisit
back out.
that.
But you got,
100%.
they're talking about, how to stonewall the administration and how to block the policies the administration wants to move forward. So,
Yeah.
it's going to be a challenge for her to get for the prosecuting attorney to get an indictment, though. That was a pretty sweet thing.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know her. I don't know much about her, but kudos to Lindsay Halligan, the
Yeah.
U.S. attorney who got this indictment.
Yeah.
So good work.
Yeah.
Good work.
Get some more.
And we're going to, well, Stephen Miller thinks we should have more too, doesn't he?
Yeah.
You want to talk about
Uh,
Stephen Miller?
Yeah, I think Brennan is on the top of his list now, isn't it?
Well, we talked about this
Uh-huh.
a couple months ago. What
Right.
did we say? Brennan,
Clapper.
Comey.
Right.
I mean, there's more we could add to this list, but that's
Yeah.
our top three, I
There-
think, right?
Yeah, there's a lot more to add to this list. But you have
Suzanne
have
Spalding?
the ringleaders,
Yeah.
right? And so we're gonna talk about. You want to talk about Clapper first, or where do you want to go?
Well, I'd like to play the video of Stephen Miller because I think he summarizes this very well.
Yeah.
He calls these people
Oh,
for what they are,
Mhm.
right? And what they did in the Russia hoax
Right.
is it was an insurrection.
Yeah.
It was straight up an insurrection.
100%. 100%.
They did this to subvert our elections.
Yes.
They did this to prevent Donald Trump from taking office and to usurp the will of the American people.
Right.
And it didn't matter what
Right.
they had to do.
Right.
They were doing it at all costs.
And that included usurping the judicial branch of government. Right?
Absolutely.
Because we know that CISA and its partner CIS, which we'll talk about a little bit later as well, both moved very heavily into our judicial branch of government to pre-program the judicial branch with all of these national security experts and their prognostications about Russian disinformation. And so
Right.
yeah, it was a full-on coup d'état.
Very, very
Yeah.
coordinated. And
Very
it involved multiple departments in our government.
Well,
multiple.
It involved a lot of people at the state and local level to pull off, because Susan Spalding did that study of American elections, and we've played her video before here where she talks about you can't affect an election in the United States on a national level. You have to do it at the state.
Right. It has to
because
be
it's-
local.
It has to be local. So
And that's just exactly what they
Right.
did.
they created CISA, which then got a stranglehold into our elections department.
Steve,
So-
go ahead and play video 4.
real quick before I do, we need to think back to some of our investigations, some of the things that have been sent to us by other friends of ours. And we know firsthand, because of those Zoom videos, that it's not just the bureaucrats and it's not just the elected officials. There are a ton of federal employees throughout all the different departments, including ones we've never heard of, that are in there as bad actors. They're being trained how to leak, how to disrupt, how to
Mhm.
slow down the process, how to make it difficult
there were
for
even
anything
employees-
positive to take place.
There were employees in the Library of Archives
Yes.
right? I mean, like all levels of
Yeah.
government. You're right, Steve. So these federal employees are all part of the coup d'état.
Right. Now, I just want to make clear as we talk about people, I said it does involve people at the state and local level. And that's why I keep inviting every chance I get the Department of Justice to bring itself to the state of Arizona. But just because we mentioned someone on the show, they may have played a role in what took place, but they may have done so unwittingly. They may have, had this anti-Trump syndrome, and they were willing to do things that they were told were perfectly fine and that were legitimate because we had this whole, deep state push of anti-Russia and anti-Trump. And I think we're seeing that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we've talked about this before too. And if you think about it at the very core, the people that are giving the orders, so to
Right.
speak, and a lot of it's propaganda more than it is orders, but the people that are driving what's occurring at the state and local level, these are people of high authority,
Right.
right? These are people that command a level of respect that
Mhm.
even some of the most free thinking and highly intelligent people
Right.
could succumb to doing things that were wrong without even realizing it.
Right.
I mean, this is what they get paid to do in the intelligence community, right?
Yeah.
Manipulate.
Yeah.
You guys ready for that video?
Yes, let's
Yeah.
go. Let's roll.
Comey,
Well, and then-
Clapper,
Yeah, go ahead.
Brennan, Obama, Monaco, all conspired together, all worked together to try to sabotage, undermine, unravel the democratic institutions and structures of this country. The Russiagate hoax, the Russiagate conspiracy, and all of the assaults against our liberties that went with it. The pre-dawn raids, the handcuffing of innocent Americans, the espionage against President Trump's campaign and staff, the removal of his national security advisor, one fake indictment, one fake charge after another, the special counsel, all of it was a unrelenting attempt to overthrow the government the American people voted for. I cannot find words harsh enough to condemn the conduct of these conspirators, these insurrectionists.
Boom. That was
Yeah.
a mic drop moment.
Powerful words from Stephen Miller.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. But he's 100% right.
Yes.
And so, what they tried to do is they tried to scare us, right? It was government terrorism against the American people,
Yes.
right? With all the indictments, them coming after us at the state bar associations, right? That was an attempt to intimidate, to
Absolutely.
harass. And so they wanted us to go underground so that they could do whatever they wanted to do. And if you look at statements that are coming out now, who's that one congressman? He was sleeping with a Chinese spy. Fen, they call him.
Oh.
Fen.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
Yeah.
I can't think of.
Do you know his name, Steve? Fen? We'll call him Fen. Right? Fen came out the other day and said, when we get power back, we are going to pursue every private citizen that supported Donald Trump.
Right.
Right? That is fascism. These
Absolutely.
people are 100% pure fascists. They want to use the power of the state to destroy their political opponents. And that's what they were trying to do during Trump's first term and what they tried to do under the Biden administration. But thank God, people like you and Steve don't shut up and sit down. Right. Because we gotta stand up and we gotta keep moving forward.
Well, and we have to also recognize that the same kind of pressure that occurs in corporate America
Right.
occurs in the government.
Right.
For people to not believe that. And I'll come out with more information about this, but
Right.
I don't want to say specifically what company. But my son and his wife work for a company, and they took a personal day to go to the Charlie Kirk Memorial.
Right.
When they returned, they were docked points on their personnel file, which is optional. And the manager told the employees that were there that anybody that took time off to go to the Charlie Kirk Memorial was going to get points taken from their personnel files.
Why?
So it was targeted. There were 7
Right.
employees that took time off because he said Charlie Kirk was a horrible human and that he wanted to punish people
Yeah.
that supported him.
Why?
So
we
this
should
is a
say
manager.
the name of the company.
Yeah, this is, well, I have to get my son's permission. But
Yeah.
my point is, this is the same behavior
Right.
that we're seeing at the governmental level
Right.
all the way down to private industry, corporate America,
Mhm.
right? This intimidation,
Right.
this threat. And when you get to that kind of level, Brian, I
Mhm.
mean, it can't be anything but an insurrection at
Right.
that point. When you are dealing with the feds,
Mhm.
the intelligence community, I mean, what else can you call
Right.
this effort?
Yeah. Well, you want to talk about Steve?
I got the name. It was Eric Swalwell.
Swalwell.
And I
Oh.
think his Chinese spy girlfriend was like Fang or Fung or something like
Pen
that.
Pang or
I don't
something?
remember.
Yeah.
I don't know.
but
Pen
yeah.
Pen.
Yeah.
You just call him Pen Pen.
Swalwell.
Swalwell.
That's right.
Yeah.
You want
And
to talk
so-
about Clapper?
Yeah. You
You
want to talk
wanna
about
go
Clapper?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about this email from James Clapper.
Number
Number
6.
6. Yeah. Crazy stuff. Amazing how emails can come back to haunt you. And could we enlarge the left side of that, Steve? Because that's kind of
Go ahead and enlarge.
Do what?
enlarge the left side of that so people
Oh,
can actually see.
Hold on. I'll have to bring it up a different way to do that.
Yeah, zoom in on the bottom is what we want. If you
Yeah.
can zoom in on the bottom, we can read that.
I mean, I can read it here on my computer, but I'd rather our viewers be able to see what we're talking about, and that we're actually talking about something that does in fact exist rather than making stuff up.
There you go.
Let's
Go ahead
see.
and
Yeah, and so
bottom left corner is what we want zoomed in.
well, go up and show the name at the top.
Okay, all the way at the top,
Yeah, James R. Clapper. It should
Keep going.
say. Keep going.
all the way down.
All right,
There
this
you go.
is
James
yeah.
R. Clapper, DNI,
What is DNI?
Department of National Intelligence.
Isn't
Right?
it? Is it Defense National Intelligence
Defense
Agency?
National
Yeah.
Intelligence. Yeah.
Defense National Intelligence Agency, and this is to several people, including James Comey, right, who ran the FBI at
And
the
the
time,
The NSA.
and the
Roger
NSA,
Michaels, of admin
National
at the
Security
NSA,
Agency,
right?
right? And so if you scroll down, let's read John. Let's read this email real quick, just so we sort of get an idea.
Keep going.
Well, hold on, leave it there.
Okay.
There's some good stuff in here. James Clapper says, understand your concern. It is essential, and this is a really good part. It is essential that we, and by we he means, right, he's got in the parentheses there, the CIA. We all know who they are, right?
Right.
Yeah, Central Intelligence Agency.
Well, he
all that.
tells you who it is.
Yeah.
That we, in
Yeah.
quote, CIA, NSA, FBI, and ODNI, Office of Defense National Intelligence, right? So it's essential that we are all on the same page, all the intelligence
Right.
community.
That we all have, like Comey and McCabe originally did, that they all have the same story, right? None of them can deviate. They all have to push the same thing. And why is that? Right?
That's our story, and we're sticking to it.
That's our story.
Have you ever used that phrase in any context where you're telling the truth?
No.
Come on.
That's
something you say with your sibling in the 3rd grade. It's like, okay, when mom and dad come
Right.
home, here's our story, and we're
Right.
sticking to it, okay?
Who broke the vase?
Right, exactly.
Right? Who broke the damn vase?
Who
Mom's gonna
took
come
the
home.
last
We gotta
cookie,
we gotta
right?
have a story. Who broke the
Yeah.
damn vase? Steve broke the vase, right? Here's what we're going to tell Mom. We're going to tell Mom that we were sitting here eating our Cheerios when Steve came running down the stairs and threw a tennis ball at your head and broke the dumb vase.
Okay,
Because we want to
Brian,
get Steve in trouble.
that's our story, and
And
we're
we're
sticking to it.
Right? And so
Steve, you
this
did
is,
it.
I mean, this is
Screw
totally
you
funny.
guys.
Right? This, you know, right? And so I don't even. I
Where do
don't
you go
even-
from there?
Yeah, and so he's talking about the CIA has provided to the NIC the complete draft generated by this ad hoc fusion cell. What is an ad hoc? What does ad hoc mean?
Out of the normal, right?
we
Ad
just-
hoc is abnormal, spontaneous.
We just grabbed people that we
Right.
wanted to create this committee to draft this report that would become our story that we're all going to stick to.
Right.
Right? This email should land this guy in prison forever, right? And if you look it up there, if you look at the subject, it says Russia response planning.
Right.
Because what is this email? What are they trying to do? What's the date of this email?
December 22nd, 2016. It was right after President Trump was elected, and they're trying to set the stage before he even gets
Into
inaugurated
office? Right.
and into office on how to get him out.
Right. Hillary Clinton lost the election because Trump is Putin's tool.
Right.
That was the narrative that they were creating. That was the story they were creating that they could stick to, right? That they were creating this lie so that they could do exactly what Stephen Miller said, so that they could run this lengthy multi-year coup against President Trump.
Look at the language in this, Brian. Like, I really want to zoom in on the psychology of the words. So in the first sentence, he says, I've just returned from a TDY overseas and been updated on the current status of our efforts to produce a joint product related to the Russian attribution and intent for the DNC DCCC hacks. If you are an investigative organization, we're an investigative organization. Right. Do we ever use language about producing a product? Or is it an assimilation or report of findings?
Right.
Is there not a difference? Because in my mind, that language is not conducive to an investigative report.
No, it's not. It's conducive to producing something that they can use against Donald Trump.
We are working very hard to put that product together for the president.
Right.
That's what they said.
This is not
And who was the president?
conducive.
At that time, Obama.
Barack Obama.
This is not conducive
right?
of an investigation. It's conducive of a production of materials that can be used to be weaponized.
Right. And this guy is saying, essentially, we need more time. Right? We need more time to put something credible together. And what does Clapper tell him? Too damn bad. Time is not negotiable.
Oh, yeah. Put that back up, Steve. Yeah. And then we're going to go to the top of page 2. Go ahead to the...
Right there. Yeah, it says...
Scroll over. And all the way up to the top. There we go. Listen, there we go.
And so... Well, the time is not negotiable was actually Clapper's
right,
email.
that was Clapper.
Right, and so he says time is not negotiable. But what are these guys talking about? We need to be 100% comfortable with before we present it to the president of the United States.
We have one chance to get this right.
One chance to get it right, right? To get what right? Right.
Well, the integrated product of the CIA, FBI, and NSA that's jointly authored that they can all defend.
Right. And so, you know, this was the beginning of the conspiracy. And this is also about the same time, I believe, that was it. Who was it? John Jay and President Obama declared election infrastructure critical infrastructure. It was
Yes,
sometime in this time frame.
absolutely.
Right. And so you have Hillary Clinton lose the election because the American people are obviously sick of the way our government is performing and what our government has actually become. They want somebody that's going to change the system. And you have these people, these deep state hacks. And we've been saying this for a very long time, right? That the CIA, which we're seeing here, the CIA is part of this. Staged a coup d'etat against President Trump by stealing our elections. And that's
Right.
exactly what we've been saying and working on for years,
Absolutely.
right? And so, it's fascinating that James Clapper he's probably not liking this email very much. He's like, can why wasn't that shredded?
Right.
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 So, at least these people aren't like Stephen Richer, which we'll talk about later, where he's using and his wife, I'll mention, using their personal email addresses for communications regarding business. But yeah, it's pretty sad.
Yeah, we'll talk about that at the end of this, right? So, what about how does all this play into CISA? I mean, what was the role that CIS and CISA played in all of this Russian madness?
Well, let's bring in another lefty, and we've talked about it on the show before. We talked about the fact that a lot of people from British military intelligence came to the United States and were doing these huge psyops in the United States because they wanted to mess with our, cognition, our view of the world, how we
Absolutely.
viewed the world. And so let's just take sort of a look at let's go to number 9, Steve. We'll talk a little bit about CISA's creation after this, but this is Jen Easterly, who
A director of CISA.
was a director of CISA, right?
Right.
And so we'll talk about, I want to read this quote before we go to the creation of CISA and we take a look at what CISA actually became, because it's hugely important. Yeah. Okay. One could argue we're in the business of critical infrastructure, right? Because that's what CISA was created for.
Right?
And the most critical infrastructure is our cognitive infrastructure. So building that resilience to misinformation and disinformation, I think, is incredibly important, right? This is what COVID was about.
Right.
Our cognitive infrastructure, right? How we as an American people view the world.
Right.
And so we wonder why there are so many terrorist attacks that are taking place now, because they messed with America's cognitive infrastructure.
Right. Our worldview
Right.
and our cognitive recognition of our surroundings
Yeah.
is what drives our behavior.
Correct.
So if they can control that,
Right.
then they can control the direction of society.
Right.
Right?
100%.
If they get to make those choices and dictate what is true and what is
Right.
false,
Yeah.
then they're controlling society.
Yeah. And so
This is
let's-
scary CIA stuff,
this
right?
is-
this is
this
not
is-
internet
Right.
infrastructure
well,
that we're dealing with here.
it's interesting. I mean, pull up number, what is it, 6?
7.
7. This is sort of the evolution of CISA, right? Which was founded in 2018. The deep state, ironically, overthrew President Trump from within.
Oh yeah, this was during
Under
his administration.
right?
Yeah.
And so this goes hand in hand with what we were talking about earlier, Steve, where we have all of these federal government bureaucrats that have this same worldview as the leadership of the Democratic Party and the national security state that was very anti-Trump. And so the machine created all of these mechanisms, which would then later be used to overthrow President Trump via the 2020 general election. But I mean, 2018, CISA was founded. It was, it was designed to protect critical infrastructure, right? And critical
Cyber.
Well,
cyber critical
yeah,
infrastructure.
cyber threats.
Right.
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 But what is cyber threat? I mean, we've got a case right now against Maricopa County Attorney's Office, right, where they're saying, oh, you can't have our emails with the Center for Internet Security because it would expose us to cyber threats.
Right.
You sort of have to look at what they're talking about, cyber threats, right? And so we could go back to Easterly's definition where they're trying to affect our cognition, right? So
Right.
that misinformation and disinformation, what they deem to be mis and disinformation, we cognitively see. No, hold on. We cognitively see as being valid, right? They
Right.
came out and said the laptop, right, from Hunter Biden,
Right,
was
the
Russian
Biden laptop.
disinformation. If they can affect our cognition to believe that story, right, then it becomes a true story, even though it was a lie, right?
Absolutely.
And just like, and
Put
we've
that
got,
back up.
okay, that's
Okay.
fine. And we have a local example, right? We put out a video about the server room, right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. And what did the deep state, which included Stephen Richer, because he was a CISA subject matter expert,
Well, they tried to go after an attorney,
right?
a teacher,
Right.
a legal professor at ASU
Right.
for sharing video of the information we had put out
Right.
at a meeting.
And it was we've shown it on this podcast that
Correct.
it was 100% true.
Right.
We have testimony that the guy allowed into the server room didn't have authorization to be in the server room, let alone to be in there alone.
And we have the documented evidence that he
Right.
had no log file access.
Correct.
Right.
And we have documented evidence that shows files were deleted from the server prior to the Maricopa County Elections Department delivering them to the Arizona State Senate.
But that's not true, Brian.
Right.
They said it's not true.
Right. But if they can impact our cognition, if they can change our mindset, whatever they say is true becomes true. Right.
Well, it's like Steve was saying today, and I have to mention this because it segues in. He said, we really need to, even though we've done it before, we really need to unpack the Kerry Lake trials and the amount of gaslighting that occurred and the type of language they would use to alter people's perception of reality. And that's really what it is. It's twisting words, convoluting circumstances just enough where people question whether what is true is actually true anymore.
I'm going to stress out our coffee makers is dysfunctional.
Acting up.
It's acting up. It's acting like, Clapper, right?
Right.
Yeah. And so, I mean, without pulling this back up, because Steve actually doing something more important, which is fixing the coffee pot. Got to have coffee, right? And so, this investigative report into CISA and what it became, Congress is saying CISA metastasized into the basic nerve center of the federal government's what they called the domestic surveillance and censorship operations on social media.
Right. They created a whole department, right? MDM, Mis, Dis, and Malinformation Department.
Dis and Malinformation Department.
Yeah.
Right? And so they were literally stalking Americans on social media. I guarantee you 100% they were stalking you. Guarantee they were stalking Steve. Guarantee they were stalking me, we the people, Kerry Lake. And so that's one of the reasons we sued Maricopa County Attorney's Office, because they were using, a private non-governmental organization to do a lot of their bidding. But they were reporting what they considered disinformation to social media, right, to get you removed. They're the people who got Trump removed from Twitter.
Absolutely.
Right? And
yeah. I mean, but you heard, Brian, the director of CISA saying the most critical infrastructure is cognition.
Cognition. How we view the world.
How we view the world.
Right.
That's the most
Thank
important.
You, Steve.
So we're not so worried about Russia anymore.
Right.
We're not so worried about China or Iran or any of these other potential
Right.
cyber security threats.
It's American.
It's American cognition.
Right.
The American people are really dumb, and we need
Right.
to control the narrative. I mean, that's
Right.
essentially what they're saying.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And so, we still see these problems in social media today, but CISA became this beast, that was intent on reshaping America,
Yep.
to prepare it, to pave the way, I believe, for what we're seeing today, which are violent attacks, the assassination of Charlie Kirk, right? To pave the way for these violent attacks on ICE, to pave the way for the violent attacks, because they spent decades using tools like CISA to silence us while promoting their propaganda. Right?
Absolutely.
And their propaganda was that we are all fascists, that we're all trying to overthrow the government of the United States of America. And that did have a huge impact on the cognition of many Americans. And so getting back to the trial of James Comey, right?
Right.
How is the prosecution going to get around that, what we could otherwise call brainwashing? How are they going to get around that?
It's really going to be a challenge.
Yeah.
It's absolutely going to be a challenge.
Yeah.
When people ask me, do you really think we're going to see handcuffs? Do you really think we're going to see prison? Theoretically, I
Right.
always want to answer yes,
Right.
because I believe these people are guilty, which is the reason why I couldn't serve on one of those juries, because
Right.
I have a predisposed idea that they're guilty, right?
Mhm.
So I want to believe it,
Right.
and I'm hoping that they have the evidence they need that will break through this
Right.
cognitive dissonance
Right.
that we're experiencing, and get people to vote with reality. So it'll be
Right.
interesting to see how this plays out. But I agree with you. I think it's 50-50 on whether we actually get an arrest and jail time.
I think you're right, and something you just said triggered a thought in my head, and it actually goes along with what Brian was saying earlier. I'm comfortable saying that nonpartisan is a myth, especially in today's world. In America, everything is politicized. If you want to claim that you have 12 people sitting on a jury that don't have a political agenda or leaning about anything that comes before them,
Right. Even a political philosophy.
then you're
at
lying.
minimum.
You're lying. There's
Yeah.
no such thing as nonpartisan. It doesn't exist anymore.
But what would go a long way to, create, or basically, I say, restore the rule of law,
Right.
is to hold our government officials accountable. We should have held Bush administration accountable
100%.
when it violated federal law by using the the RNC to conceal its communications, right? We should have prosecuted Hillary Clinton when she ran illegal servers in her basement, and communicating sensitive top secret information. We should prosecute the guy who's zipping down the sidewalk at 25 miles an hour behind people at night, and pushing them off the sidewalk and almost running them over, right?
Absolutely agree.
If we enforce the laws, then the laws, then people will start respecting them. But once we no longer enforce them, who's going to respect them? If Comey can lie to Congress, right, with impunity, or McCabe, whoever it was, because I do believe that he's alleged to have lied to Congress. I'm a big believer in the American
that's the
system of
attorney in you,
jurisprudence,
right? That's the attorney.
Well, no,
You want to give the man his fair defense.
right. He's entitled to a fair defense,
Yes.
but so too were the J6ers. But
Right.
they didn't get that fair defense, and so
That is true.
we have to restore the rule of law in the United States. But let's go to number 8, right? Because the federal government was very actively working with they were engaged in this censorship operation, right?
Mhm.
And so pull number 8 up. They were doing it with an organization called CIS,
Yep.
the Center for Internet Security, right?
Yes.
CIS does two things, right? What are those? You know?
Well, they operate the Albert sensor.
Yeah. What's an Albert sensor?
So Albert sensor, and I'm going to give it to you in my layman's terms.
fine.
Okay, an Albert sensor is essentially a module that's placed in an internet infrastructure to
Right.
monitor it for
Uh-huh.
potential hacks and threats.
Right. Right.
So,
And so,
yeah,
yeah, and but CIS we've seen from contracts requires that the people that have an Albert sensor give them access to everything, right?
everything.
Everything.
Including reconfigurations, the
Right.
entire formatting.
Right.
And there were actually some counties and governments that pulled out of the Albert Sensor program
Right.
because they discovered how uncomfortable
Uh-huh.
it made them
Right.
to lose complete control of their cyber infrastructure.
Right. Well, that's what's interesting about the Maricopa County case is they claim that we're syncing all of their communications, the attorney's office, with CIS. Right? Do you know how many pages of communications they claim to have with CIS?
I think, don't we have the document
Yeah,
telling
what
us?
is
I
that?
think somewhere.
What is that?
I want to
That's
say it's number 14.
number 14. Steve.
Yeah, we can roll backwards. We can start there.
No, not 14.
It's not 14?
I don't see it here.
Oh, maybe I missed that. But yeah, it's 160,000, was it?
16,000.
Or 16,000 rather. Yeah,
16,000 pages of communications with
Mhm.
CIS, which was essentially the private sector partner working with CISA
Right,
to censor American speech,
right.
right? So they created at CISA's request, and we know that CIS received 99.8% of its funding from CISA and the NSA,
Right.
the DHS, Department of
DHS,
Homeland
Department of
Security,
Homeland
right?
Security, was the primary funder of CIS.
And I'm just so used to saying, NSA, the National Security Agencies, which would include DHS,
Yes.
right? And so, they received all their funding from DHS. They did the bidding of CISA, so they were performing government functions with taxpayer dollars. But they became the driving force censoring American speech. And so, did we put that? Did we put that one tweet up that I sent that I added to the system?
Yeah, that's number 16, visibility limited.
Yeah, let's pull up number 16, right? And so you still on Twitter or X cannot say certain things. And so this is a tweet I did, right? You see there at the very bottom, this visibility limited, right? The post violates X's rules for hateful conduct, right? But I don't say anything hateful. I ask a question. Did the Arizona Secretary of State's office even get hacked? Right? Because he's claiming he was hacked,
Yeah, but you can't ask those questions.
right?
That's cognitively incorrect.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Twitter.
And so I just simply said, it said, why would Iran? Because Adrian Fontes blamed Iran for the hack, right?
Right.
The damn Iranians. And then I say something about Adrian Fontes blaming the Russians for the Navajo Nation fire threats
Mhm.
at polling locations, right? And so here, Adrian Fontes, was he a former Marine?
He was.
What is up with Marines? Because two of the last mass shooters were former Marines,
Yeah.
right?
It's a little
But
bit.
anyway,
a little crazy.
he's blaming Russia, and I said, sounds to me like an inside job, right? And do you see anything in there that's hateful, other than I obviously don't like Fontes.
You're
and-
asking questions. I mean, you're clearly asking questions, which is your right as an American citizen to ask questions.
Yeah, but look at that last sentence. Given CIS, an NGO likely has access to the Secretary of State's systems. Inside job could mean just about anyone, right?
Right.
So there are still certain people that X will not let you talk about, you know, Elon Musk. Your system is still hacked by people who are flagging tweets that aren't hateful,
Right.
right? They're flagging tweets of people that are asking relevant questions about agencies that used to work with Twitter to censor American speech,
Oh, absolutely.
right? And so
Yes.
CIS has a huge censorship reach. I think they're trying to change their spots right now, but that shouldn't be possible because once a leopard, always a leopard, right?
So, Brian, as you had said, we put in a public records request
Mm-hmm.
asking for the communications and the contracts between Maricopa County and CIS. And they've disclosed that there are 16,000 pages of emails, but they're refusing to turn them over, citing national security risk, right? They've also, haven't they declined to even have a contract?
Yeah, yeah. And so,
Do you want to see that?
well, let's see here. Do we have?
Number 14 is a PRR
Right.
about communications with CIS.
Yeah. So pull up 14.
Yeah, go ahead. So this is from the custodian of records at maricopa.gov. And Steve, if you can scroll up here, it says, Dear Shelby Bush, thank you for contacting the attorney's office. We did not identify any responsive records related to, quote, contracts and or engagement agreements with the Center for Internet Security, the Multi-State Information Sharing and Analysis Center, and the Elections Infrastructure Information Sharing and Analysis Center. So it's saying we don't have a contract.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
no contract.
No contract.
No contract with an organization retained by the national security state to censor American speech and help it shape our cognition,
Right.
with which they have 16,000 pages of communication.
We have 16,000 as a government agency acting on behest of the Maricopa County citizens.
Uh-huh.
We have engaged in 16,000 conversations with an agency
Uh-huh.
that we have no business contract or relationship with.
Right. And then their defense is they would put them in cyber security risk if they were to produce the documents. But we know that CISA redefines cybersecurity
Mm-hmm.
to mean mis, mal, and disinformation.
Correct.
And
MDM.
and that their primary function was to affect the cognition of the American people, right?
Yes.
And so it's entirely likely that all 16,000 pages are tweets that we've done, talking about Maricopa County election.
Or information related to how our local Maricopa government
Right.
can, in fact, also affect cognition of
Right.
its citizens
Right.
and utilize the MDM platform, right?
Yeah.
So how are we to believe when their primary function appears to be cognition
Uh-huh.
that all 16,000 pages are only about critical infrastructure? And why would they have exchanges on cyber critical infrastructure without any form of contract?
Well, I know. I mean, because what I find incredible is Maricopa County is technically the law firm representing the people of Maricopa County.
Right.
Right.
And so people understand when we're referring right now to Maricopa County, we are referring to the Maricopa County Attorney's Office.
Right, which is led by Rachel Mitchell.
Correct.
And so, you have this law firm, the Maricopa County Attorney's Office. They have grand jury information. They have witness information. They have victim information. They have criminal information. They have all of this information in their case files, right? and they don't have a contract with a company that's providing cybersecurity and IT services for it. What I find absolutely fascinating is that you would think at a bare minimum they would have a contract that says should CIS or any employees of CIS come across any sensitive case related information, that it will be kept in the strictest of confidence.
Well,
Right. A confidentiality agreement at the very basis
at
of a
the
contract.
at the medical level, the federal government mandates
Right.
if we use a contractor in the medical profession, any kind of
Right.
contractor,
Yeah.
we have to have a third party licensing contracting agreement
Uh-huh.
agreeing to protect and preserve
Right.
PII and other relevant information regarding patients, right? It's called HIPAA.
Right.
There
Right.
are federal laws that require that.
Right.
So it doesn't matter if the contract is government to government or not.
Uh-huh.
That shared services agreement, like you said, like a non-disclosure
Right.
or personal protection agreement,
Right.
why would that not be required?
Yeah, that's one of the questions I have. But let's look at we know government officials in Maricopa County were actively engaged in censorship. We've talked about Stephen Richer, right, with the video
Absolutely.
we spoke about earlier, where he tried to get the ASU professor fired,
Sam
Um,
Bodul was involved in that.
and then
who
sanctioned
yep.
by the bar.
Yep.
Right. Let's pull up number 15 really quickly. And just so we can beat a dead horse, right? This is Stephen Richer using his Maricopa County Recorder email to communicate with, again, Bodul at States United, which he essentially invited into the administration of Arizona, Maricopa County elections.
a radical leftist third party NGO. I
Right.
just want to add that.
Right.
Go ahead.
And my guess is in violation of Arizona law, because Ducey signed a law making it illegal to accept private monies in the administration of our elections. States United is a private company, a private entity. So even if they're doing work for free, right? Like if I do free work for the Republican Party, right? Then
It's
the
still in
Republican
kind.
Party still has to claim it as an in-kind contribution. And
Absolutely.
so I believe these were violations of the law. But here's Stephen Richer talking to Bodul, and what are they talking about? Right?
What they're talking about, deep scanning.
Deep scanning, election threats, and
Disinformation.
Right. Yeah. Stephen Richer was down here as a CISA subject matter expert trying to help CISA shape cognition in
Right.
Maricopa County.
Right.
They were trying to convince Maricopa County residents that their elections were free and fair, that we were just a bunch of kooky people, right?
Right.
And that everything was kosher. I think Stephen Richer lost that battle, didn't he?
Well, he had his own team
Yeah.
too. He followed CISA's lead, and not
Right.
only did he work with them,
Uh-huh.
he created his own MDM department, I think of 6 or 9 employees, and he references it here. He says, we and some of our partners at the county, which it would be interesting to know who his partners at the county are,
Uh-huh.
do some of this. And I've copied the people who can speak to what we already do,
Mhm.
but we'd love for you to fill any holes we have
Right.
through your kind offer.
And we know States United, who's the guy who started States United? Big lawyer.
Yeah, Norm Eisen.
Norm Eisen.
Norm
right? He's
Eisen.
kind of like your AG. I can't remember his name. They're both, I don't know. We'll leave it there. But, Norm Eisen, we know, has ties to who? Right? Hillary Clinton, John Brennan,
Hillary Clinton,
Clapper,
Brennan, Clapper,
all of
Comey,
these people.
all of these players.
Right? And so does Mark Elias,
Mhm.
right? Because Mark Elias used to represent the DNC, used to represent Hillary Clinton, didn't he, when he was with Perkins Coie?
Absolutely.
Perkins Coie is tied to the FBI. They were sharing office space, right? So this is collusion at the
Right.
upper level,
Right.
massive collusion at the upper
This
level.
is, as Stephen
Right.
Miller put it, this is part of
Uh-huh.
the orchestrated coup and insurrection
Right.
against the American people.
Steve?
Yeah, just going back to Stephen Richer really quick, who's from Steptoe and Johnson, right? But misinformation is spreading false information unintentionally, right? Not knowing that it's false information. Disinformation is intentional spreading of false
Right.
information, right? You're trying to misinform people
Right.
on purpose. Stephen Richer is one of the best professional gaslighters I've ever seen.
100%. 100%.
And
The king of disinformation.
I can't help but feel like when you're gaslighting
Mhm.
the public, the entire public, isn't that a form of disinformation?
That's 100% a form
I
of
feel like
disinformation.
he is probably one of the biggest people that were actually conducting intentional disinformation through gaslighting and diversion tactics.
Well, of course he
like
was.
he took a course on it or something.
That was his job as a CISA subject
Mhm.
matter expert, right? He was
Right.
that was his expertise, was gaslighting and trying to help CISA shape cognition in Maricopa County so they could, get Maricopa County over this hurdle of the 2020 election.
Yep.
Right? And say, oh no, Biden won the state of Arizona. Well, Biden didn't win the state of Arizona. And so this gaslighting took place very, very heavily in our judicial system through Susan Spalding and Elizabeth Reiskopf Parker, who were the impetus for the disinformation task force created by the Arizona Supreme Court, right? And Stephen Richer here at the Maricopa County recorder level, because what other positions did Stephen Richer hold?
None.
Well, he did, didn't he?
He
In the state of
volunteered
Arizona.
in Arizona.
Uh-huh.
He moved into Arizona, and how he got involved in elections to begin with is he volunteered to work for the AZ GOP to do an independent election audit.
Right.
But he didn't hold any other public
Well,
office
he
prior
was-
to becoming a recorder.
Wasn't he the chairman of the Arizona Recorders Association or something like that?
After he was elected, yes.
Right.
Yes.
So he, as recorder, he pushed his spittle throughout the state,
oh yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
And so, this is part of the problem, is that Americans need to see that the national security agencies, right, the CIA, as Clapper talked about, the NSA, Defense National Intelligence, all of these organizations really work with British intelligence to reshape, America's view of the world.
And it goes all the way
view
down
of
to the
itself.
local. All the way down to the
All the way
local
down.
level, right?
All the
I
way
mean,
down.
we're looking at these people of the highest
Yeah.
classifications, spreading and trickling that information down
Mm-hmm.
all the way down to the county and the city level.
Right.
And, before we wrap up, Brian, there was another, we talk about elected officials who use personal emails.
Right.
There's another interesting dynamic here in the state of
Right.
Arizona, right? In that Stephen Richer's wife,
Uh-huh.
Lindsay Short,
Right.
she's an assistant U.S. attorney,
Well, who knows?
at
now?
least we thought,
Yeah.
for the state of Arizona, right?
Yeah.
An assistant Arizona U.S.
She
attorney.
was.
She was participating.
Right.
So she ended up becoming a lawyer prosecuting election-related threats and crimes.
Right. Interesting, right?
So very interesting, because neither of them,
Right.
neither Lindsay Short nor Stephen Richer, had a background in elections.
Right.
They didn't go to law school specifically for elections. They kind of fell into this realm.
Yeah.
She ends up going to work in the state of Arizona to prosecute crimes against election workers, whatever that department is.
Yeah.
And she was participating in these conversations between the recorder and Katie Hobbs,
Right.
Katie Hobbs' campaign, judges,
Right.
using her personal email
Yeah.
while working in an official capacity for the government, correct?
Yeah. So we've done actually an
Do you want
evidence
me to bring
preservation
up
letter.
PDF 11?
Yeah.
Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Pull up 11. And so most people didn't know that she was married to Stephen Richer. And so we've done an evidence preservation letter to Timothy Orchain, and we also have for people that don't know it, the people are entitled to obtain records from the government. At the state level here in Arizona, it's called a public records request. At the federal level, it's called a FOIA request, Freedom of Information Act request.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But so we've done this letter to the current U.S. attorney for the District of Arizona, asking them to preserve all of Miss Short's personal emails so that we can find out what she was talking about in Arizona at the local level as respects our elections. But we also have, Steve, let's go to number 10. We haven't heard anything back though,
No, we did.
Did we?
Yes. So I just found out that they responded back and they said that they needed to send it to an additional department for review
Right.
and that it was going to take additional time.
Right.
And they wanted confirmation of a few things from us before they move forward.
Right.
So they have actually now
Huh.
escalated the situation.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's like when you call tech support, I can't help you. I got transferred.
Transfer you to supervisor.
Yeah, then they transfer you to another department. And they transfer you to another department. And then 15 years later, you're still on the phone with cobwebs growing out of your ears, and you still haven't resolved the problem, right?
The translation of that answer was, "Oh shit! What are we going to do to hide this?
No, that's
keep
exactly
them
right.
from getting it."
You know, it's funny, Steve, and I think we were talking about this. Correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but since we sent this letter of demand on Lindsay Short, they've kind of scrubbed all of her existence in the Arizona U.S. Attorney's Office. Like we're
I
not
have no
finding
idea.
nothing publicly anymore, hardly.
Yeah, there was
So
a
it's
big
kinda
story,
interesting.
wasn't there, in one of the Arizona rags about where is Lindsay Short,
Yeah,
right? It's like, where's Waldo?
right.
Yeah, where'd she go?
Interesting.
Yeah, I heard Stephen Richer went back to Chicago.
Well, maybe
maybe-
Lindsay Short followed.
Could be. I mean,
Yeah.
they both came here from Chicago, right?
Right, and presumably, I mean, they're
Norm-
married, so you
Norm-
would think they would leave together.
Yeah,
They came together.
Norm Eisen's hometown, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Barack Obama's big in Chicago, isn't he?
So apparently they're no longer effective in their role here, so
Right.
they've been relocated.
Right.
I have no
Who knows?
idea.
Who
Who knows?
But we know, we pull up 10, right? This is Stephen Richer, right? Again, zoom in on top. Okay, and he's using a personal email address to
He's going to bring it in so he can zoom.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's using a personal email address to communicate with States United and other Maricopa County officials.
Yet he's signing it with his recorder signatory. Did you see that?
Right. And
How do you even have your recorder? Oh no, maybe he didn't. He didn't in this one. He didn't use his recorder
yeah, so Stephen
signature
Richer.
line.
But what's he talking about? He's hi Christine of course States United.
He's talking about his office. Eileen Haber worked in
Right.
his office. Eileen is one of the gems of the office and oversees
and-
public records.
And Sierra Mela also works in the recorder's office, and then whoever's name's blanked out there works in the recorder's office. And so what they're talking about with States United, what Stephen Richard's talking about with States United here, are public records requests. And really what they're talking about are people like us, because we do a lot of public records requests, right?
Right.
And so this is some I'm guessing underhanded planning on how to
What not to release?
what not to release, how to sort of fight the number of records requests, how to litigate these cases so that, courts are unwilling to give us documents. And so that's probably, one of the reasons why Stephen Richer is using his personal email address. But, when our government officials use personal email addresses as opposed to their work email address to conduct the work of government, which he's doing there. Public records requests are
Right.
the work of government.
So then their private
Mhm.
emails then become subject to public record.
Right.
And that's the Lindsay Short argument that we're dealing with right now with the U.S.
Correct.
Attorney's Office, right?
100%.
Is we're saying she used her personal email
Right.
in her official capacity. Therefore, we want all personal emails
Right.
related to this issue.
But now let's say this States United individual responded to Stephen Richer alone. He didn't, the person responded by hitting reply as opposed to reply all.
Okay.
Would that reply then be available if we did a public records request?
Well, it would totally depend on the search parameters used on the other side to pull those emails. So
it wouldn't depend.
It wouldn't
depend because Stephen Richer's personal email is not logged in the system.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Okay.
And so that would be hidden from public view.
Oh, no, I absolutely understand what you're saying. So
Right.
if you were to
Right.
ask for all communication with Christine Soon,
Right.
for instance, which that's who he was communicating with,
Right.
it would not come up in a public record search. You would
Right.
have to know
Right.
he used his personal email
Right.
in order to locate it.
And if there's no evidence or proof that they used a certain form of communication, then they're not going to provide it to you.
Right. They would deny it.
Right.
These emails were found kind of accidentally.
Right.
It was a request for the calendar. So we got the Stephen Richards calendar. And as part of the attachments in those calendars meetings, it had the emails associated with the scheduling of the meetings.
Right.
That's the only reason we were able to stumble across Stephen Richer and his wife, Lindsay Short,
Right.
using their personal emails in
Right.
these unorthodox communications with these agencies.
Yeah, but this is no different than Hillary Clinton doing things on a hidden server, than George Bush Jr. doing things on a hidden server.
Absolutely, no
Right.
different.
It's absolutely no different. It's them engaging in the business of government, our business,
Right.
the people's business, in a way that shields it from public view.
And I would venture to say that the majority of elected officials use this tactic
Yeah.
in order to conduct business
Right.
and be able to obscure that business from public scrutiny.
Right.
And this is the problem that we've really developed, and that's why groups like ours exist, right, Brian? Is
Right.
we are living in a time
Right.
where public officials do not feel that they have to answer to we the
Right.
people,
I agree.
and they will
100%.
find any way to avoid it.
Yeah. Well, you were a windbag tonight.
Ah, how about that?
Well, I think we're about ready to wrap up. You got any last words?
No, I just can't stress enough to people. Let's try and keep a positive attitude. The Comey indictment it's a huge win for us.
Right.
We're going to see how this unfolds, and just keep speaking out,
Right.
keep speaking truth, educate yourself,
Right.
and don't let CISA play with your cognition.
Right.
And that's all I got.
I'm going to say, if you're one of these individuals that hates Trump, right? That you need to take a look at what's been happening over the last 5 or 6 years, right? It started well before that, but it really escalated after Trump won in 2016. You need to take an honest and a hard look at what you're being told, right? About what you're being sold. And you need to ask yourself, is this true? Because there are so many of you out there who have just bought this hook, line, and sinker, and you're doing things that are harmful to you, harmful to the government you're convinced you're protecting, and that you need to figure it out. And maybe the best way to do that is, I don't know, get some therapy. But just because somebody you don't like says something is true doesn't make it false,
Right.
right?
Right. And that's the hard part of truth and reality
Right.
is truth doesn't always come in the form
Uh-huh.
that we want it to.
And be willing to admit, one of the hardest things we can do is ever admit we were wrong. Be willing to admit you were wrong. We all make mistakes. We all get schnookered, right? And a lot
all
of
been
people have
there.
been schnookered. There's a guy, in the neighborhood we walk through at night. One night he puts up a flag that says F ICE, right? And then the next day the Fort Worth shooting happened, right? We walked by that house again the next night, and there was no flag that said FI.
He recognized that he was
Right.
buying into an ideology that he couldn't really
Right.
stomach anymore.
And he's probably
Yeah.
not going to change fundamentally,
Right.
but hopefully some of his rhetoric changes, right? And look at the rhetoric of Adrian Fontes,
Yep.
calling us fascists. That's part of what's leading to all of this violence. And so, ask yourselves, is what they're saying true? And then look at our behavior. What are we doing? We're simply trying to find information to educate,
Absolutely.
to report on what your government is doing. That's all I have.
You're absolutely right, Brian. Every time something bad happens that the left doesn't like, people take to the streets and start burning their own communities and destroying historical markers and hurting themselves, hurting each other. The people start hurting other people rather than addressing the issues that they should be actually upset about. But when something happens that upsets the people on the right, what do?
Well,
They revise their arguments. They get more passionate about how they engage. And they turn to God. They pray. They look for a higher meaning in all of this. When Charlie Kirk died, how many riots did you see from Republicans or anyone on the right? Did anyone get violent and start attacking others because of what happened? No.
Nope.
No. What did you see? You saw an insane uptick in people going to church, people praying, people getting in touch with their maker. And just really coming to terms with what we're facing in this country in politics right now. So anyway, that's just a couple thoughts I had, but yeah.
Do you want to send us out tonight, Steve? Go ahead and send us out tonight.
Well, real quick, another
Yeah.
thing you saw after the immediacy was people start to ask questions.
Right.
What really happened, right? What happened? And that's what people need to do. Ask questions. Don't assume because some politician or some
Media
bureaucrat
pundit.
or some media pundit tells you something that it's true. Historically, America is a nation that asks questions, and more people need to ask questions. And with that, I'm going to say peace.
Peace out.